are walking around naked, period. Let's get into it. They're walking around naked already, and they're in the pool skinny dipping. And they're drinking mimosas in the pool, but then it's like a waitress walking around giving people drinks, just passing people drinks, and people are just taking them. One of his sons, I'm not going to tell you which one, but it was like recruiting like whoever they wanted to go inside the house, because the freak off is inside the house. The house music, it makes you feel kind of woozy, first of all, because it's like a rave or something. And so I seen P. Diddy or whatever, and I seen him with the Prince. I'm not gonna say what he was doing, but doing something real sick. That's all I'm gonna say. So that we could see and so that we can get turned on, okay? So he's doing something with himself. And I'm like, it's very nice to meet you. Like, your life is not gonna be the same, da-da-da-da. I don't like it, and I know the devil when I see it. Because by me being so spiritual and tapped in, I know when something is not right. I'm not judging, but I just don't want to be a part of it, because how am I gonna get out of this?
Have you ever found yourself in a situation that seemed normal, but suddenly turned into something you couldn't explain? A night that changes you forever, leaving you with one question you can't shake off. Why did this happen to me? It was just another Friday night. I was alone at home, immersed in one of my favorite hobbies, video games, a refuge, a moment when everything stops and I don't have to think about anything. I thought it was going to be another one of those quiet nights with no worries, no plans, no rush, just me and my game, the feeling of being safe in my bubble. But safety is just an illusion. Imagine this: a typical evening, a typical game, and then something unsettling, a feeling that makes your skin crawl. You find yourself asking, what really just happened? That calm, that sense of security, suddenly turns to fear. And when you realize what's happening, it's already too late. That calm, which once gave you safety, becomes a trap. And the worst part is you won't see it coming until it's too late. My phone started vibrating. Normally I'd ignore it, but there was something about the number of notifications that made me stop. I hadn't noticed it was on silent, and when I finally saw all the missed calls and messages from my best friend, something inside me screamed that something serious was going on. Her messages were full of urgency. Answer. This is super important. And call me back ASAP, girl. My mind started racing. What could be so urgent? My heart began to beat faster as I dialed her number. The phone rang multiple times, each second feeling longer than the last, until I finally heard her voice. Damn, you won't believe it, but I'm in deep trouble, she said, unable to stop talking. Her words were confused, scared. I couldn't understand it all at once, but the tension was palpable. At first I was confused, but the fear of what she was about to reveal froze me. What's going on? I asked, trying to stay calm. And then the bombshell. I got an invite to the biggest party of the year, and not just any party. It's Diddy's party, an exclusive event. Diddy? I couldn't believe it. How the hell did she get in? I thought it was a joke. But no, she swore it was all true. The party was the following Friday. You need to take a day off, she continued. Get ready. You can't miss this opportunity. But what was behind this party? What was about to happen would change me forever. The days leading up to the party were chaotic. Every conversation I had with my friend revolved around that event. Who would be there? Which celebrities? This wasn't just a party. It was a ticket into a world that only a few could even imagine. I felt a mix of excitement and fear. There was something in the air that told me this night would be different from any other. Thursday night, the tension was building. My friend arrived at my place and we started discussing what we would wear. The rule was clear. Everyone had to dress in white. At first, I thought it was ridiculous, but the more we talked about it, the more I felt there was something darker behind it. Diddy wanted us all to look the same. But why? I couldn't help but think that this rule was a key to something I couldn't quite grasp. Every detail had to be perfect. Not just the outfit, but the idea of belonging to something that would change you, that would make you disappear into the crowd. What was really waiting for us? Curiosity grew. I felt like I was about to enter a game I could never get out of. Finally, the night arrived. The tension was unbearable. This wasn't just a party. It was a doorway to something we would never forget. But what would happen when we finally arrived? The morning of the party felt like a countdown that would never end. The tension grew with every passing minute, but it didn't matter. We were too excited. We rented a Rolls-Royce to make sure we arrived in style. If we were going to be a part of the celebrity crowd, we had to look the part. Every second spent getting ready felt like we were preparing for something huge. But were we really ready for what was coming? By 6 p.m., we were finally on our way. The drive seemed endless. Every minute felt longer, adding to the tension. As we got closer, the thumping music from the party hit us. The bass was shaking the car, and we could feel the energy in the air. The closer we got, the more surreal everything seemed. The streets were filled with luxury cars, all heading in the same direction. A river of power, wealth, and secrets hidden behind velvet curtains. A world that consumed you the moment you entered. It felt surreal, like we had stepped into a dream or a nightmare and we couldn't tell which it was. What were we really getting ourselves into? As soon as we arrived at the mansion, the first thing that struck me was the security. Not the kind you find at a club, but something different. They took our phones and sealed them in cases, preventing us from using them. No cameras, no recordings. Only the guests were allowed to be there. At first it seemed over the top, but then I realized it was part of the game. A game where nothing and no one could distract you from the truth hidden behind those closed doors. I wondered, what happens if you don't obey? Entering the party felt like stepping into another world. The energy was powerful, but also unsettling. The giant pool, people laughing, dancing, drinking non-stop. But there was something in the air I couldn't identify. A strange, almost toxic smell that made the atmosphere even more surreal. The women were stunning, too perfect to be real. This wasn't just a party, it was a ritual. A ritual I didn't know if I was part of or just a spectator in a world I should have never discovered. People seemed to be there for a reason I didn't understand, but somehow felt connected to. There was a sense of luxury, but also danger, like we were trapped in a place we were never meant to leave. And if everything I was seeing was just the beginning? It was a calm night, and my friend and I were near the pool trying to enjoy the moment. But something strange caught my attention. A group of people was entering the mansion, and at the center was Diddy's son, who was choosing who could enter a more exclusive and mysterious area. My friend and I exchanged a look. We hoped one of us would be chosen. Then, suddenly, Diddy's son looked at me and gestured for me to come closer. My heart skipped a beat. My friend wasn't chosen, but she gave me an encouraging nod, even though there was something wrong in her eyes. I knew it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but the fear began to grow. What was waiting for me inside? A privilege or a danger I couldn't see? Every step I took, I felt more nervous. I had no idea what awaited me, but by then, there was no turning back. What was I about to discover? A secret that could destroy me, or a choice I should never have made? Entering that mansion was like stepping into another world. A scary, dangerous world. The air was heavy, as if someone was watching me from every corner. The dim lights cast eerie shadows, making everything feel even more frightening. In one corner, I saw people dressed in strange costumes as if they had come from a nightmare. They stood still, motionless, with masks covering their faces. They looked like statues, but they were real. And the more I walked, the more I realized everything around me was becoming more mysterious. In one room, I saw people using substances openly. In another, couples and groups were engaged in acts so bizarre I couldn't even understand what was happening. It wasn't just a wild party. It was something far more terrifying. The floors were slippery, covered in something that made everything even stranger. The drinks they gave me were stronger, making it harder to keep control. As soon as I drank, I felt an overwhelming sensation. It was like all my defenses were crumbling. And around me, people had empty, lost looks, as if they weren't human anymore. What was happening in that mansion? And why couldn't I escape? Then something happened that chilled me to the bone. An older man, with an air of power and control, stepped onto an improvised stage. The crowd, drawn by his magnetism, fell silent, hypnotized. Every word he spoke seemed to penetrate deep, like the message of a truth no one wanted to hear. Then, with an unsettling calm, he asked, "Who here wants fame? Who here is willing to sacrifice everything for success that exceeds any dream, any imagination?" The applause erupted, but in my stomach something turned. What was really happening? And then came the sentence that froze my blood. "All of this can be yours, but nothing is free. To get what you desire, you must give something in return, and what we need is your soul." His words echoed like a dark scream, like a spell that couldn't be ignored. What did it really mean? The hidden truth behind success might be scarier than we ever imagined. But this was just the beginning. What happened next would be the biggest step toward darkness, and I could never go back. What happened next completely shocked me. The people around me seemed hypnotized, ready to bow down and give every part of themselves. With vacant eyes, they sang their submission, willing to give everything that was asked of them without flinching. And I, trapped, felt the weight of fear crushing me. I had no choice. So, with my heart in my throat, I bowed. I had no idea what I had just agreed to, but what happened next surpassed every nightmare. Then they led us down a dark, narrow, suffocating tunnel. The air was heavy, as if they were trapping us in a nightmare. Every step brought me closer to a fate I never wanted to know. At the end of the tunnel was a room that didn't belong to this world. A large wooden table, covered with withered leaves, looked like a scene from a demonic vision. One by one, people were stripped of their humanity, giving up all resistance. Their blood was extracted with clinical precision, and, like in a ritual that defied all logic, they were forced to sign documents with their own blood. It was too much for any human to bear, but I was trapped. Fear had taken control. What had I just agreed to? This wasn't just a ceremony, it was a dark pact. A promise no one can ever forget. And now, that promise was binding me to something far greater, far more dangerous than I could ever have imagined. The days that followed were a nightmare that felt like a dream. My life changed suddenly, and I didn't understand what was happening. Money, huge sums appeared in my account without me asking. Women I'd never seen contacted me, offering dream opportunities. Everything I had ever wanted seemed to come effortlessly. But the more I had, the emptier I felt. The fame I had always dreamed of? A trap, an illusion. The money, the attention, the people who adored me. It all seemed perfect at first, but in reality, there was nothing behind it. I was getting lost in a world that promised happiness but was draining me inside. I realized I was no longer free. I no longer had control. Every dream I thought I'd achieved was keeping me more and more trapped. My life seemed perfect from the outside, but inside, I was trapped in a cage I couldn't even see. The truth they hide from you? Getting everything you think you want can be your greatest curse. What happens when the dream turns into a nightmare? I realized, too late, that I was no longer living my life. I had traded my freedom for every dream I'd always wanted, but at a cost I hadn't foreseen. The feeling of being constantly watched consumed me. Every move, every breath, seemed to be under someone else's control. An invisible prison, and I couldn't escape. It was just the beginning of a nightmare. I started writing everything in a diary. Every interaction, every word, every detail of that night was captured, as if it were my last hope for salvation. I hoped the diary would help me find a way out, but the more I dug, the more I realized there was no escape. It was too big, too deep. I couldn't give up. I couldn't stop. The truth was too close, too dangerous to ignore. Yet something inside me whispered that if I dug deeper, if I searched just a little more, I would find the key to escape this deadly spiral. What if I was never free? What if I was always trapped? The truth I was searching for might be the very thing that would destroy me.